Sophia A. McLennan 20171223T1500226Z20171223T1500226Z. There is a famous literary analysis quote that says, "Irony trumps everything, because it provides additional richness to the literary dish, and it keeps us readers on our toes, inviting us, compelling us, to dig through layers of possible meaning and competing signification." But now it seems Donald Trump ironies everything, and it's not making anything richer, except for him and his buddies. In a week where things feel far more dismal than ironic, it may seem that delving into how words work and layers of meaning is not only a trivial pursuit, but potentially a dangerous distraction from the real political work we ought to be doing. But irony is never simply a trivial matter, and even less so in an era where just about every word we know is losing its meaning and everything that makes sense feels under attack. Shortly after the 2017 inauguration, James Strick wrote in a letter to the editor of The Washington Post, "I cannot believe I live in a country that made President Obama show his birth certificate but won't make President Trump show his tax returns." He titled his letter, "A Bitter Irony." While the concept of irony is the sort of thing that geeks can spend their lives studying, it's not as tricky a concept as it might seem. There are basically two core types of irony: rhetorical, where words are used in ways that are different from the literal meaning, and situational, where you expect an outcome, but the opposite happens. Rhetorical irony is saying that you are really happy that the tax bill passed, when you really are not happy at all. Situational irony is the least qualified person winning an election. Reading these headlines, it doesn't immediately seem obvious that irony in the Trump era is entering a new phase. The Bush-era jokes seem similar enough. But there is much about Trump irony that is vastly different from its earlier incarnations. One of the core differences is that after 9/11, irony was considered a brave way to poke at the status quo, whereas now irony is literally everywhere. A recent study found that Trump was on track to be the most mocked president in U.S. history. Some of those jokes are simply crude insults about an orange-faced, small-handed troll, but many depend on irony for their comedic punch. As Seth Meyers put it when he mocked the idea of Trump as a candidate, Donald Trump has been saying that he'll run for president as a Republican, which is surprising, since I just assumed he was running as a joke. It's worth remembering that after 9/11, Vanity Fair editor Graydon Carter declared that the terrorist attacks would signal the end of the age of irony. There were multiple pieces in those grim days that suggested that irony was dead or dying. The basic idea at the time was that irony was too irreverent, too closely connected to comedy, too highbrow to be of use in a crisis. And when good and evil really do seem easy to define, as was the case for many after 9/11, irony doesn't work. The satirists, irony masters, fell silent in those early days. Jon Stewart cried on air. And yet, as Zoe Williams pointed out in a 2003 piece for The Guardian, naturally, irony was back within a few days, not least because of the myriad ironies contained within the attack itself. America having funded Al-Qaeda is ironic. America raining bombs and peanut butter on Afghanistan is ironic. Irony may fall silent in the face of a fresh tragedy, but it will always come back, and this is because irony is a prime weapon against disinformation, lies, abuses of power and emotive hysteria. Because rhetorical irony depends on using words in ways different from the literal meaning, it is able to especially sting in times of deception and crisis. When Stephen Colbert stood next to George W. Bush and roasted him at the 2006 White House Correspondents' Association dinner, he said, "I stand by this man. I stand by this man, because he stands for things. Not only for things, he stands on things. Things like aircraft carriers and rubble and recently flooded city squares. and that sends a strong message that no matter what happens to America, she will always rebound with the most powerfully staged photo ops in the world. Colbert used irony to help make sense of the hubris of the Bush presidency, and he used it to cut through the ways that the Bush administration manipulated its image for the media. It's valuable to remember the way that irony helped us make sense of the post-9/11 context, because Bush and Cheney may have been masters at lying, but they were anything but ironic. And that is why Trump has messed with irony so badly. Trump himself embodies irony, and that is why it is so easy and so hard to make fun of him. Trump is a performance, maybe even a meme, but certainly not a statesman, and he regularly uses a bullying, belligerent, cheering tone that comes awfully close to ironic jabs. As comedian Juliana Forlano put it on a recent Salon Talks episode about the funniest political moments of 2017, it would be funny if Donald Trump didn't have his finger on the button. He's buffoonish but also in charge of things. Trump's use of scare quotes, as in his famous quote about being wiretapped, is an excellent example of Trump seeming to use language ironically. Terrible, just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism. Donald J. Trump at Real Donald Trump March 4, 2017. When Trump made a big deal to Tucker Carlson that he had used quotes around wiretap, meaning he wasn't being literal, it led Moses Velasquez Manoff to suggest that Trump had ruined irony, too. More in